So I figured since we had both Sue Perkins and Elaine Jabenis here on Saturday, April 22nd, 2017, we might just take advantage of having a little conversation with the two of them. And one of the questions I wanted to ask is, both of you, tell me if I'm wrong, but have interacted with members of the Fonda family. Elaine, I think I understand that you were on first name basis with Henry and Peter and Jane.
And Jane.
And Sue, you did a show with Peter Fonda, is that?
I never did the show with him. He was in the theater crowd at the UNO. Oh. And we were on high basis. We didn't really know each other. I mean, I knew who he was, he knew me, and that was it.
Right, because there was a period of time that Peter was living in Omaha and being a student at UNO.
With an aunt, I believe. He
yes.
lived with his aunt.
Was it Aunt Harriet?
Yes.
And so is that The Happiest Millionaire? I'm trying to place The Happiest Millionaire.
Was he in that?
Yeah, well, see, that's what I'm asking, but I'm not sure I have the right.
Well, see, I don't think he was. I was.
You were in that show.
Yes, I was the maid.
Oh, okay. Was that a play? That was a comedy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason I had something that said you were both in that, but I don't trust everything on the internet. Have you heard that?
I don't think he was in that. But I could be wrong, my brain. It's a long time ago.
So, Elaine, you met Henry Fonda.
I did.
When was that?
He was here for, I don't know exactly what, it was some kind of promotion kind of thing. And I was working at this radio and television at that time. And
so would this have been before this Playhouse was built and he was helping to raise money for it, or was it like during On Golden Pond when he was here? Do you know?
No, he was here when we were in this Playhouse.
Oh,
yes, right. And so I had to arrange for interviews for him, whatever that goes with
sure
with the celebrity of his caliber. And then I met Peter when he did a couple of plays here at the Playhouse, and I co-hosted a cast party for him and the cast. And he had a girl. He was going to UNO at the time.
Saying hi to Sue Perkins.
Huh?
Yes. He was saying hi to Sue Perkins at the time at UNO. They were both there at the same time.
Right. And he had a girlfriend, and I found he was so unkind to her at that party that it kind of bothered me to some degree.
Yipes.
And I found that he was really a sweet guy, but there was something sad going on with him, and I think it had a lot to do with the fact that both he and Jane had to take a back seat in the relationship with their father.
I'm sure that's
but
true.
Jane resolved many years later.
True.
Yes.
You met Jane?
I met Jane. She was interviewed on the telephone for Country Girl, and by Kendrick Wilson, and she was cast at that time. Yes, that's when I met her.
Jane visited the Playhouse a few years ago and toured it.
Yes.
That was pretty exciting for us.
It was very exciting.
Yeah.
I was sorry I couldn't get here for that, but that was really nice.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yes.
She went to the wall that is now the photo wall, and she came in that door where the photo wall is. It used to be, that was the main entrance to the Playhouse long ago.
Right.
And she came in that door, and she just gravitated toward the photo wall and just kind of toward the pictures. She immediately spotted her father.
Sure.
And just started crying. I mean, we were like,
oh, really?
You had us at hello, Jane.
Yes.
She was lovely. She let us walk around the building with her. Yeah.
There she was, yes.
Would you both talk about if there was anything you were being asked to do on stage, or maybe the play itself or the musical itself would have been considered for its time, or the place you were performing at, controversial? And did you have to deal with that in any way? Did you ever have something that was kind of I don't know, inappropriate behavior on stage or something that might have turned some people's heads about what was being done in Omaha? Did you ever have an experience like that? Something, you know, there were times where an interracial kiss on stage would have been highly criticized. I don't know. Just thought I'd bring it
Well,
up.
I know that I did Wingless Victory,
Right.
and I was a Polynesian princess, which is dark skinned, and the leading man was a captain of a ship of some kind, where he had met her on the island and brought her back to the American area where it was very religious,
Oh.
and they found that very unacceptable that he had married this Polynesian princess. And I remember that the director had him in a white shirt in a particular scene. I had to put dark skin coloring on, you know, for the show. And whenever I put my arms around him, my hands were always dark on there. Every night that took place, at least 3 or 4 people got up and left.
Oh.
We had that kind of resistance towards the interracial marriage, even back in those days.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting experience for all of us, because we couldn't, you know, relate to why just as actors they would be so insensitive to it. But it was an interesting experience for us to find out how people felt about what was going on.
Yeah.
That was
Sue,
back
I
in
think there was a couple of times during Best Little Whorehouse in Texas
yeah. Remember
that
that?
didn't have anything to do with me,
Right.
but
You were just the madam,
I
right?
was just the madam. But Charles was very good at positioning people on stage. And the opening of one of the parts of the show, they were all in different positions, men and women.
Kind of purient.
I think that got a few eyebrows. And I remember in The Robber Bridegroom that Andrea, who played the female lead, was in a nude bodysuit. And I think they got a letter or something was mentioned that she was naked on stage, which she was not. But other than that, I wasn't in anything
Encountered that.
really awkward.
Yeah.
That was
having
a
to do with
one-time
me.
thing
Yeah.
for me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both of you started doing something to do with your future as performers in your synagogue. You were Bethel Israel, and your church, your Presbyterian church. Talk about, if you would like, your experiences performing early in the church or in the synagogue. You organized musicals as a kid, as a young person,
Yeah.
at your synagogue. Talk maybe about your faith and kind of has that fed into your performance life?
Well, I do know that my people, or the audience that we had, were great lovers of the arts in all forms. And whenever we wanted to do something of that nature, which was theatrical, they were delighted and very supportive.
Great.
Really, it was thrilling. Then they have a theater, you know, at the JCC.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and they started to do all kinds of theater there, which was kind of fun. I mean, we got to, you know, experiment with things. We did World of Shalom Aleichem there too.
Oh, you
At
did?
one time, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because there was a time when certain religious organizations might have frowned on someone going into the theater as a avocation or a profession, I guess. But that was very encouraged where you were.
I would find that very unusual because there was an awful lot of Jewish performers.
Oh, I don't think the Jewish world was never not supportive of
Oh yeah,
performance
very,
and the arts. I totally
right.
agree. I'm
You know,
talking about
back
other.
to Al Jolson and
Lou Adler.
Yeah.
Stella Adler's father was a great Jewish actor in the Jewish theater, Yiddish theater.
yeah, and of course the great success of the Fiddler on the Roof indicated how much passion there was for that kind of theater brought forward.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Any thoughts about that,
I
Sue?
was in the choir at UNO, and John Miller was the director. And then he went to Dundee Church as their director also. So I followed him. And I went to whatever church he was directing.
Oh,
And I learned how to sing, legitimate singing, by standing next to his wife.
really?
And they were very passionate about the words that the songs portrayed. They were gospel, they were, the Bible. That's how I learned whatever was in the Bible, because I never really went to Bible study or classes. And so I attribute anything I know and to my faith through music. So
Yeah, lovely. That's beautiful.
It is.
Both of you have had connections to the fashion world. I think there's just a lot that I found that you had in common. I thought it was cool. Elaine had a long career in fashion merchandising for Brandeis stores, and Sue was a fashion model for 3 years. Both of you have always been,
Performing.
well, and I think you always present yourself so beautifully, and you dress so beautifully. How do you think fashion and modeling have influenced your ability to be on stage? Maybe this leads to that question: what does a costume mean to you?
I think fashion is show business in a great way, because we do I know in the stores we were always trying to make the mannequins look extremely light, believable and exciting and tell a story about what the new trend is. All of that had to be possible. All the fashion shows that I did, and I'm sure if you were a model, sweetheart, you did a few too, we had to have people that could relate to the audience and really turn them on, so to speak. So there's a lot of show business involved in fashion.
And Sue?
I took, I don't know what led me there, but I did take a course in modeling through the Nancy Bound studio. And I think that helped me on the stage quite a bit, to help me not walk like a pregnant bear. And, but I was only involved in the show, the modeling. I had nothing to do with the production of it or anything. I was just there, and they dressed me.
Were you part of that modeling world, though, where you're walking down a runway and all these people are staring at you, and
I've been there, yes.
you're looking at you from behind and from in front?
I know.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yes, it is.
I wouldn't know anything about that. Never had anything to do with it.
And, of course, modeling has changed an awful lot since I was a model. When I was a model, you'd walk out there and you'd have a certain way of standing, and you had to throw your hips forward and have your feet in this position, and now it's everything. You
Yeah.
can do anything you want, but you have to make it look good.
Do you have anything to do with Omaha Fashion Week or anything like that?
No, but I remember I was a hair model for Clairol. Went down to the Fontenelle Hotel where they had a big convention, and we each were assigned a beauty operator. And was assigned mine, and he took me upstairs to a hotel room. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wasn't very old.
Oh, wow.
They washed our hair in the bathtub and did a style. And then we would go down and parade all throughout the hotel and with our Clairol
Baldric
yeah,
sash.
yeah.
Wow.
So that, I thought, it's just hair. I don't care what they do. So I became a redhead for the first time
Because of that.
because of that, and I never changed after that.
Did you have long hair back then?
No.
Medium
shoulder
length?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so here's maybe my last question before we open it up. But here's another thing that I find that you have in common, and that is that you have both in later life, although Elaine published a nonfiction textbook about fashion merchandising called The Fashion Director, What She Does, and How to Be One. And it was later developed, it was developed as a textbook. It was translated into Japanese. And they later included it to not just be what she does, but what even a man who might be a fashion
Yeah,
director.
my second edition of that was the fashion directors, what they do
Oh,
and how to be one.
change the pronoun.
We changed the pronoun
Yeah.
because there were a lot of men that came into that field also.
Right.
So that was really, really exciting.
I remember in 2014, and that was in the 70s that book was published.
Yes.
And there had been no other textbook for doing what you were doing. You
No.
were kind of like this working girl before Marlo Thomas even showed up on TV. I just so admire that. You found yourself in these working situations where,
Yes. And Marlo Thomas once came to Omaha and appeared in one of my shows.
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, right, because we were raising some funds for St. Jude.
Oh, that's her
That's her
charity.
charity, right.
Right. And then in 2014, I think Georgia's Secret was published, your novel.
Yes.
And now you're writing fiction. And I'm just going to
I'm
ask you
doing-
both to talk about it,
I'm
but
doing
Sue has two books, fiction books. In 2006, Alan's Mother is Waiting. And then just in 2012, Schwinn Black Phantom, What Happened in 1949 We Kept to Ourselves. And I can't say that I've read them, but
That's
I've been
okay.
able to read little sections, 'cause I didn't know you were an author. But I've read little sections on Amazon, and I'm intrigued, Sue. I am, and I loved your book, Elaine.
Thank
So, your creativity is kind of just coming out wherever it seems that you want to, where you want to kind of lead it in these different parts of your life. You're both authors now.
Yeah, we create actors in the fiction, and that I almost stage it when I see it. I vision
Oh,
it, as
sure.
I'm writing.
I agree with
because,
that.
Don't
Do
you
you?
agree with that? Yes. That's what happens. You really you see the scene, and you stage it and put it into the written word. Yeah.
And that must have been what maybe helped you get started when you were working on Generation to Generation, and she asked you to do the book.
It's very possible. Yeah.
You kind of
I think
see
the arts kind of relate to each other, don't you think?
very much so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
wonderful. What a world.
I know it. Tell us who I read, but please tell us who your kind of influences were that made you start to want to write yourself.
Well, I just think all books are autobiographical.
Mm-hmm.
It comes right out of your soul, and it comes right out of your brain and right onto the page.
Mm-hmm.
It does
And
indeed.
so, there's you in every book.
Mm-hmm.
It may not show for other people, but you know it's there.
True.
And writing fiction, you can go wherever you want to go. And so both of my books are fiction. But I guess I just must have my theatrics just spilled right out on the books.
Yeah.
So I got through with one of my books, and I thought, I've written a play.
Yeah.
I've written a play.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly what happens.
But then you have to come up with all the description that we wouldn't necessarily see in reading the book, and you have to
Yeah.
write for male characters as well as female
Yes.
characters, which I'm sure is interesting.
In fact, the second book I wrote was The Schwinn Black Phantom was through the eyes of a man.
Really?
So I had to periodically, I would talk to my husband. I'd say, would a guy say this? Would he say it like this? And so that was a challenge, and it was really fun.
It is fun.
And you wrote about, certainly in Georgia's Secret, the world of fashion.
Fashion.
Yeah.
You should,
So-
if you write about what you know about, it is much more fun, and it becomes more real, I think. And a lot of people say that I must have been the character in the book. I said, no, not at all. Not at all. That's all fiction. But the background of the fashion business, I learned, and so naturally you draw on what you know.
Right. Take little pieces of stories from things that really happened.
Yes, right. And you also, your characters are pieces of maybe certain people you've met, but not necessarily a person you know.
Right.
They're fiction.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Oh, thanks. Thanks. Well, we've had this lovely group of people sitting here staring at us, chatting and being so involved. Do you have any? Is there anybody who has a question for either Sue or? Yeah, Mike.
It's for Elaine. Elaine, it's good to see you again.
Mike, it's awfully nice to see you. I talked to your sister the other day.
Well, speaking of my sister,
Yes.
so you were a director, an actor, a playwright, and you also produced the Brandeis bashes that you did for years.
Yes.
What brought you the greatest joy or the most satisfaction might be a better way to ask?
I think it's all in its time and space, Mike. I love doing fashion shows. I think I was one of the first to take fashion shows and make them into musicals. And I learned that when I went to Paris once, when I had to go to see the collections. They were so creative and so, they had such a vision of how to present fashions rather than just having someone walk out, stand, turn, walk off, you know. And there was theatrical flavors brought into all of it. So when I get back home, that's the first thing I did was to start doing. And you were in one.
I was.
Yes, at Peony, and these were all benefits for the Arthritis Foundation. We put theater into it,
You
and
absolutely did.
and it had a lot of fun. It was great. That was a good question, Mike.
Bill.
I have a question for Sue. There's a rumor, and I want you to settle this for me. When you did Miss Mona, and I loved your Miss Mona, and I loved Best Little War in the House in Texas, this last song was wonderful. And I had always heard that Charles moved the song from, it was somewhere in the show, and he moved it to the end of the show. Do you remember that, or did he do that?
I don't remember the song being moved.
What was the
In fact,
name of the
I'm trying
song?
to think of the song.
I don't remember the name of the song.
Could you sing a
Getting
little
on
for
the
us?
train and going.
Yeah, it's when she's leaving.
That was toward the end of the show.
That
Yeah,
was
that
toward the
was
end.
at the end of the show.
Oh,
pretty
okay.
much.
It was a powerful moment.
Yeah.
It was really great. Yeah. Love that show.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Yeah.
Fun role.
Yeah. No.
Anybody else? Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Elaine, and thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Really,
Thank you,
really
Elaine.
appreciate your spending a Saturday with us.